Hey, hello and welcome to the show. It's me, John Park, and this is John Park's Workshop. Just going to fix this camera here. It was pointed alarmingly low. Hello, and thanks for joining me for what is actually, I believe, the first John Park's Workshop of the new year. I've had a couple of product pick shows during the new year, but this is the first time I'm doing Workshop. I was off and out and prepping for possible evacuation due to the fires here. Someone asked, and just to answer, thanks Andy Calloway for asking over on our Discord. Yes, still safe over here where I am, but of course, as you've probably all seen in the news, things are bad in general in Los Angeles, so thoughts go out to people who've been directly affected by the fires. So let's see, what do we got going on here today? This is the Workshop show. What have I got? I've got a coupon code for you so you can buy some cool Adafruit stuff at a discount. I have a recap of my product pick of the week show that I do on Tuesdays. I have a new CircuitPython Parsec for you that I think is rather snazzy. I have a new project that I'm working on. I'll give a little recap of a project I'm just finishing up and writing a Learn guide on. And I think I've got a little gear report that I want to do, kind of a twofer gear report. So the first thing I want to do is thank people for stopping by, including over in our YouTube chat. We've got Dave Odessa, Beatagraf Avdalhagen, Johnny Bergdahl. Hello, thanks for popping in. And then over on our Discord. So if you're wondering where the chat is and you're somewhere like Facebook, hey, where's all the chat? Head to Discord. This is our Discord channel right here. You can go to that server, actually, which is adafru.it/discord, and then look for that channel right there, live broadcast chat. We've got plenty of different channels for different needs and different times of the day and interests. But during the live streams, that's the place to be, live broadcast chat. And I'd like to say hello to people who've popped in over there. Andy Calloway, Blitz City DIY, Paul Cutler, Johnny Bergdahl is there as well. C. Grover, hello. Good to see you on Show and Tell last night. C. Grover showed some very cool weather and environmental sensing station projects, which is very cool. And C. Grover is going to be appearing on the podcast of this guy right here, Paul Cutler, who, along with Todd Kurt, has the excellent CircuitPython podcast. What is it called? Now I'm forgetting. There's the Bootloader podcast that they do, which I've been listening to, catching up on some great episodes. Go check that out. And then the CircuitPython podcast. Is that what it's called? What's its title? I don't remember. And also popping in over on the YouTube chat, QuinMan16, hello, hello, and X Micron, hi to all. So I'm going to get a sip of a beverage here. And let's get to it. So I've got a coupon code for you. If you want to head over to the Adafruit shop, I didn't plan to match this to the colors of my shirt quite so much, but Mineralize, that's not helpful. Mineralize, that's the product, rather that's the coupon code of the day. So if you head to Adafruit.com, this place right here, you can go and get yourself a nice discount, a nice 10% off just by typing in Mineralize in the coupon code slot on the way out. You can look at some of the new products. Whenever you go to our site here, the main site is the store, but you've got some new products that are showing off here. For example, if you wanted to save $9 and roughly 50 cents, we'll round up, on this NeoPixel LED outdoor netting, 20 by 21 meter square LED NeoPixel net, then do that. Go, throw it in your cart, and get yourself the coupon code Mineralize on the way out. Excuse me. If you go and click on the products, new product view all section, you can see we've also got the new mini Sparkle Motion. That one came out first. We have a full-size Sparkle Motion and I think a even tinier one. I can't remember if we're doing a Trinky or what. But Sparkle Motion, that is a brand new board that Lady Ada has designed, and Aaron and Liz are busy documenting and putting through its paces along with some other people playing around with them, and those will allow you to use WLED, which is a super popular way of controlling NeoPixel LEDs and other RGB LEDs. So it's a brand new board. But what's the point of all this? If you like to save money and get some of that cool stuff, then that's the coupon code for you, Mineralize. I can't really help make that more legible without going and clicking on stuff. But that's it. That's the coupon code for today. That'll be good until midnight tonight, East Coast time. So use that. I should also mention that we have some freebies available. If you head to adafruit.com and instead of /new, you do /free, you will see right now, due to availability of things, we actually don't have the top tier thing. We ran out of Circuit Playground Express boards. But if you spend $99 or more, you're going to get the free coaster, free PCB coaster with the Adafruit logo. If you spend $149 or more, you'll get the coaster as well as a KB2040. If you spend $199 or more, you're going to get both of those and UPS ground shipping for free in the continental US. So that's at adafruit.com/free if you want to check out what enticements we've got going to spending even more of your hard-earned money. So thank you. Answering a question I just saw in the chat, David S. asked, whatever happened to the Animatronics project, JP? That is actually the project that I'm documenting right now, so I'll have a Learn Guide coming soon. I'm hoping to finish writing that by the end of the week. And then I'll go into moderation, get some reviews and eyeballs on it, and hopefully then come out in time for next week's batch of Learn Guides. I got the I don't have it here, so I'm just going to talk about it, but I've got the 3D printable pan tilt base, motion base that uses standard size servos done, ready to go in there. You can print them out and use them. You can also just use a pre-built injection molded micro servo pan tilt mount. You'll just need a smaller character for the top of it. And then I have instructions in there as well as a sample Bot-Tango animation project that you can use in order to just animate it, go to town, or puppeteer it with a PS4 joystick, other console joystick plugged into your computer, or record animation as you puppeteer it and then be able to go in and edit that. So that's all stuff I did. I demoed some of that stuff, I think, in the last show and tell before the Christmas break. I can't remember if I showed that on the last show. I can't remember what state that was in before the last workshop show. So that's what's going on with that. Thanks for the question, Dave. And Paul Cutler, thank you. Verified it's the CircuitPython Show, not the CircuitPython Podcast. The CircuitPython Show, and that's the show that you should go check out. Check out some old episodes if you haven't listened to it before. And they're going to be interviewing C. Grover from our community in an upcoming episode. So keep an eye out for that, or an ear out for that. Okay, next up. So Tuesdays, I have my product pick show. I pick something. I build a demo with it. I show you that. I give you a big discount. That's how it works. Here's a recap. It is the SCD40 True CO2 sensor with temperature and humidity sensing and Stemma QT. It has a range of about 400 to about 2,000 or so parts per million that it'll report, which is perfect for human breathable air quality sensing. We can not only use the Arduino and the CircuitPython drivers, but we've also got a really nice, easy way to use it in Whippersnapper. I started this off in my studio where I have a smaller office space. It's a little more airproof, airtight than this garage workshop. So in there I was experiencing around 900 or so up to 1,000 parts per million. When we go into the workshop here, we drop into the 400 range, which is what it's been sitting at, with some small exceptions when I've breathed on it intentionally or something. SCD40 True CO2 sensor with temperature and humidity sensing and Stemma QT. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed it is. Ooh. Do I have a delay? No, I'm good. So what is next? I've got a CircuitPython Parsec for you, and I wanted to just do one little quick bit of setup for that first. I need to open up my terminus. I should really make a hotkey for this. There we go. And let me connect up to the board. And I'm going to open up the code that's on the board so we can live code it just in case. There we go. Okay, check it. All right, here we go. For the CircuitPython Parsec today, I wanted to talk about light attenuation in LEDs. So this is the topic of how does perception work versus reality. In reality, if you want to have a set of LEDs fade from, let's say, full brightness to off over the course of a discrete number of LEDs, you'd think that the best way to do that would just be divide it by the number of LEDs and fade, 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 fade. However, human visual perception doesn't work that way. So if you look at this first row here, when I press the first button, that is a linear attenuation or a linear fade of that light from full bright down to, if there were a next one, it would be 0. So I decided to show the final fade step there. This actually, as you can see, kind of looks like it doesn't have a proper midway point, and that's because of this offset between how our eyes work. We're very sensitive to lighter light intensities. And so if you've ever heard the term gamma correction, it can apply both to color as well as to brightness. So if you take a look at, instead of a linear interpolation, if I do a different type of interpolation, let's do a logarithmic one, you can see here, I've pushed out that intensity much further. So again, it still doesn't look like quite an even fade to me. Looks like it favors the lower brightness levels. So now let's try a quadratic one. This one actually would work better on a really long string, but it's still not quite right. And then I'm going to get to the one I really like, which is the logarithmic one. I'm going to turn off these two middle ones so we can compare them. This is a logarithmic attenuation of the values of brightness and color. And you can see it feels linear. It looks like the steps between them are even. Now, the way I'm doing this is by simply having a number of different functions that get called depending on the row. If I press the first button in a row, it cycles between those 4 types. I didn't have 8 types to explore. And if I press any other button, I can turn them off. So I can do a little comparison between them easily there. And then those different functions that I'm running are here as linear fade, logarithmic fade, quadratic fade, and exponential fade. And you know what? Sorry, I think I said that wrong. The one that I really like is this exponential fade. This one actually looks proper to me, not logarithmic. I had that. I got that wrong, sorry. So this is a linear fade here. This is a do it again. This is a linear fade here. This is an exponential fade, which is essentially gamma correcting for our visual perception. And those formulas there, you can check these out. I'm going to include the code in the blog post that goes out with this, so you can take a little closer look at them. But they are fairly simple expressions that you can look up online for dealing with exponential values, quadratic values, logarithmic values, and linear values. And so that is how you can explore light attenuation on LEDs inside of CircuitPython. And that is your CircuitPython Parsec. And one thing I didn't mention is what am I running this on, in case you're curious. This is a set of 4 of our Neotrellis driver boards, and they are, that's one of them right there. That's a 4x4 PCB that has both buttons and integrated RGB NeoPixel LEDs. And I've wired up, let me turn up the exposure here now that we're not looking directly at the lights. I have wired up 4 of them together. They all work over I2C. There are 4 I2C addresses here, and I'm running them off of a Feather RP2040. Happens to be an early one when we had these pink ones here. And the code for this I've put in a previous guide, actually. If you're interested, head over to learn.adafruit.com and check out VCV rack. If you type in VCV rack, this is the Neotrellis MIDI feedback controller. And that's a separate project doing something different. But if you look at the assemble the controller part, you can see I'm using an 8x8 grid kit that we sell. And I think we also have the files up if you need to just laser cut your own. And then you can get those driver boards and run those off of pretty much anything that'll drive it using I2C. So it doesn't have to be whatever, I forget what board we had this with originally, but, oh actually, yeah, I think this was on maybe an M4 Feather or something like that, or an M0 Feather. But you can drive that with pretty much anything. So that, for the curious, is how that hardware is put together that I'm running on there. And flip that back over. That's going to be muy bright. This actually, by the way, a little bit of context. This started out as I wanted to look at doing some animation effects like starbursts and things like that, and I may get to that. But in doing so, I was running into issues where I didn't really like the way that the pixels were fading when I pressed one. You'll see this on a lot of RGB keyboards, mechanical keyboards and such. You press a button, you see like a little burst of light as the neighboring pixels light up and then fade out. And I realized I should probably go to more fundamental topics here first and look at actually getting a fade we like. So now that I like this exponential fade, that's probably what I'll use in future lighting experiments with those. One other thing, let's see, is, oh, do I have a, no, I don't have a Learn guide. Yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about there, was just that, that Learn guide there will give you info about that. All right, so let's see, let me just check in on the chats. Quinman16 said, I bought my first Pi keyboard, Pi 500 to be exact, with both a CyberDeck and an I2C NeoPixel breakout board. Oh, that's very cool. That's going to be a very CyberDecky project right there. Very cool. Beata Grafov del Hagen says anti-log sometimes. Is anti-log another expression for the exponential fall off there? Let me know in the chat. And John Nodge, hey John No, says, I listened to the latest CircuitPython show yesterday evening. Very enjoyable. Hey, that's great. And follow up there, McQuinman16 on the Pi 500. Can people print 3D print keys for the Pi 500 or Pi 400? That's an excellent question. I don't know if I've popped off, I have one right here. I don't think I've popped off the keys from those Raspberry Pi keyboards to see what they are. I don't see why not. With keycaps, I've generally been told that resin printed ones are a bit more successful than FDM plastic, deposition modeling plastic. But I think with modern printers, you can get the resolutions pretty tight with a small nozzle and you'll probably make your own keycaps. Good question. If anyone has thoughts about that, throw it in the chat. And that's the chat right there, by the way. I should have had that up while I was talking to you. Okay, next up, let's see. I can give you let me give you a little sneak peek of the Learn guide that I'm working on. If I do, I just need to expand. Can I expand this big enough to see this? Am I not logged in? I might not be logged in to my account here. No, I am. All right, so Learn account, admin, animating animatronics. Okay, so to further answer your question, it was Dave Odessa. This is for you. Okay, so the last thing I had done before the break was dressed up the gnome. So I've got a little sort of lower beard mouth fabric thing there, and then the scarf, and I think it might not be a scarf, but you may recognize this guy from a few weeks back. I had gotten this inexpensive animatronic snowman and stole his shirt and jacket there, and the jacket came with the mittens and hands, so this guy inherited those. That's what became of that guy. Still see if I can do something interesting with him. Here is the pan tilt rig. I recommend putting it on a heavy base. One way to do that is with the little M3 screw threaded magnetic feet that we sell. So I threaded those up into the base of the servo pan motor base. Running that with ESP32S2 and a 16-channel servo shield, 5 volt 4 amp power supply. And then this is the little mini pan tilt kit you can use instead if you don't want to go with a larger size. I've got some notes here on getting your hardware set up and installing both the Botango software and the Arduino driver. There's essentially one sketch with a couple of changes from default that I have outlined in here that make it act just as a pass-through. The Metro acts as a pass-through for the serial data coming from the computer over USB and then drives the servos. I've got info on servo setup and PWM settings, and then we go into just building our, those are the parts, and I list here a link to, there was a pan tilt model for full-size servos I found on Thingiverse. I just made some modifications and remixed it, and I'll be posting those up to Thingiverse with attribution. Here is a little, you probably remember this from the live stream, pulling apart our gnome. You can use anything for this. These are actually hard to find now unless you just walk into a CVS and find them or other store. I gave a link to its full name. There's a few up on eBay. But really, this project isn't about the gnome. It's about the friends that we made along the way, or whatever you want to bolt to the top of your pan tilt rig. And then here's the specifics of assembly. One thing I'll put a link to that I highly recommend, I used a lot of them on this project, is what are sometimes called laptop screws. Let's do like a M2, M2.5, M3 laptop screw kit. Any of these little kits have these very low profile flush Phillips heads. They're made of metal, and they have a little, usually they have a little bit of Loctite blue thread locker painted on them. So any of these little, sometimes called notebook screw kits, these things are great. This one, I'm not endorsing Walmart as the place to get it, but these little kits of these are great, and they come with M2 by 3, by 4, by 5, by 6, M2.5 by 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, and then an M3 by 3. So you can maybe get a couple different sizes of those things, but those are great for doing this kind of assembly because I wanted to keep the heads really low profile, and these are like 0.5 millimeter high or something like that for the head on the screws. They're not those silver ones you see there. Those are the standard mounting screws that come with the servo. They were fine for that spot, but you can see here in some of these lower profile areas, I'm using the little laptop screws. And shout out, by the way, to Tom Whitwell of Music Thing Modular, who told me to get some of those for a project, for a little 8-fader mini fader project that he had put together. He said that those little laptop or notebook screw kits are great for that. And you'll see I'm using them on the sides here to mount things into the base. And there he is, naked and then clothed. And I'll have some GIFs and other movie animation in there showing it in action, as well as the full animation section. All right. Next up, I wanted to do a look at my upcoming project. So why is Mineralize my coupon code of the day? Well, that's because we were talking about my espresso machine water and my drip brewer water. I am now buying the distilled water, so it's got no minerals in it, essentially, and adding back into it the minerals that I want for coffee. I'm using a product called Third Wave Water, which comes in a few styles for different brew methods and roast profiles. You can find recipes online in these been kicking around like the home barista forums forever. It's a simple set of minerals that you can mix together, add to your water, and now you've got kind of your perfect coffee water instead of taking whatever you get municipally and trying to filter stuff out. This lets you start with 0 and put the minerals in. So I'm able to do that because I got a new machine this year. I'd been running a previous espresso machine and repairing it frequently for a number of years. The one I used to have was plumbed in to the wall through a filtration system. New one I got can do that, but I decided to just get a tank, just use the reservoir built in the machine and fill that up. And the downside is that it has, of course, I don't want it to run out, and it has, for whatever reason, no indication, as sophisticated as these machines are, no indication of water level other than a little float switch down towards the bottom of the reservoir and a Hall sensor inside the machine, so it can stop, it can basically shut things down when the water is too low so nothing gets damaged. It won't heat a dry boiler or anything like that. So you can open it up. I think next week I'll bring the machine in here and we'll do a little closer look at things, but we can take a look at that. Today I'm just going to show you some of the basics of the project. So I just saw in the chat, Jason Edelman says, need to get another 6-pack of distilled water. Yeah, that's what I'm getting, is these big 6-packs of distilled water. I think I have one. Yeah, here's one of the ones that I'm using. So I cut the label off so I know I've put the minerals back in, so it's no longer distilled water, and I write on it which one I'm using. So that's what I pour into the machine there. That's the remineralized distilled water. And I'm going to jump over to the workbench here so we can take a look at the setup that I've got for sensing the level. And so, first of all, there was a question Phil had yesterday, which was why this method? Why are you using ultrasonic sensing instead of other methods? I had tried some other distance sensing with light and infrared, and those weren't working off of the water. They weren't reflecting off the surface. They were kind of always indicating the base of the lowest point. Ultrasonic works. It bounces off of a surface. Even if that surface is a clear one, it doesn't care. It's not looking at it. It's, like I said yesterday, it's screaming at it and waiting to see how long it takes for the scream to come back. One moment, I'm going to open up Discord here so I can keep up with the chat. Todd Kurt says, hi Todd, you're not a real coffee pro until you're making your own water from H2 and O2. Is that right? I believe you. So there are other methods. So someone actually posted earlier in the chat that they had a nice contactless capacitance-based level meter they were using. And it looks like it sits outside of the chamber at some level where you want to know, yes or no, do we have water in there? Let's see, can I switch? So if we wanted to plop that on at like the midway point of our tank, we would know if there's water at that point or not. I decided I wanted to actually know the level within a few bands. Like, are we full, full, full? Are we a little less than full, full, full? Are we medium? Are we getting close? And are we, uh-oh, it's really time to refill? So I didn't want to just have a single point to measure, and I didn't want to have like 5 sensors on. So that's one of the reasons this works. This is also contactless. You can do some submersible water level checkers, and I think we sell a couple in the store, but Lamore said, you know what, try something contactless like this instead. It should be simpler, easier, less expensive, more straightforward. So this is what I've got for a demo here. Let me switch the cameras here. Sorry, this one is a little dim. I don't know if I can adjust my exposure. Yeah, I can. Okay. Adjust that a bit. So if you see here, I've got a NeoPixel on a feather. I've got an ultrasonic sensor. So one of those is a transmitter, one is a receiver. They look very similar, look like little eyes. And so they send out a little tone and they count the time that it takes for that tone to return. Repeat does it very fast, very accurately. If I'm within, I think I set it to 2 centimeters, and you can see, let me see, I was blocking that there. You can see the sensor here as it is at about the 2 centimeter mark, and it's lighting up my NeoPixel white. As I get further away, it's going to switch to blue. Wow, I looked at it directly and now I'm blinded. As I move away from it, this is the blue band. You can probably see it reflect off my finger. That helps with the color. And then at about 10 inches, I'm going to switch over to green. There we go. And by the way, I'm changing the angle of it here, and I have a curved surface. Let me move this to make it a little flatter, which is why you're seeing it kind of ping back and forth. And now at, I think, what did I say, 20, I'm going to go to yellow and blink slowly. So at 20 centimeters. And this is because the tank that I'm using is about 22 centimeters in depth. And then watch as I go from 20 to 21 and get just past 21, it should start blinking rapidly in red. So this is a way of just visually checking and confirming the water level within some reasonable bands. And it's just kind of the starting point. What I'm going to do is have this actually go into low power mode, just check every once in a while. Doesn't need to be a constant thing. The boiler in the machine, which I forget, might be 1.25 liters or something like that. It's a pretty big boiler. It refills itself every once in a while, depending on usage. And so it'll then suck in some water from the tank. I'm not actually sure. It'd be interesting to maybe measure how much it glugs in at a time, if that varies or if it's constant. But it'll be kind of nice, not necessarily even for my Espresso project, but just in general with a project like this, to have something that can be low power, can be run off a battery. In fact, I've got a battery here connected to the bottom of this breadboard. These breadboards, by the way, if you peel off the little sticky thing, you can just stick your battery and some wiring to them. I got a quick and dirty method there of getting some wires out of the way. This, however, could be interesting for people who are running off a battery, low power, check every once in a while, wake up. If it's changed, send something to Adafruit IO or another IoT service. That can be helpful for people who are doing remote monitoring of water levels in tanks and other things. Just to show you this working in the case that I actually have, the use case that I actually have of water, you should be able to see. I can't see it because I got my camera in the way. Let's, can I go there? All right. bear with me. I raised the level of my camera there, and now it's in the way of my monitor. So you should see here, I'm at about a centimeter away there, and it's white. There we go. Yeah, I'm kind of hovering as I move it, as I wiggle it, and I'm sloshing the water a little. Now, as I get to a little further away, it's going to be blue. So this is just pointed at a thing of water, tap water. Went to green, so blue to green. Blinking yellow. And rapid blinking red. And by the way, this was just, I found it a little easier to, especially with distinguishing between yellow and green and doing that on video. Sometimes those are hard to tell. Also for color blindness, if you're doing projects like this, to make them more accessible. Coupling the blinking along with the color change or blink timing can vary. You can see I've got the slow blink for yellow and the fast blink for red. Those can be helpful, I think, for different accessibility needs that people may have. So there it is. This is in this case, this is a clear container with water. I've heard some people say that they've had issues with reflective containers. The reservoir on my espresso machine actually comes out. It's a plastic tank. It looks like it's a HDPE plastic, high-density polyethylene, that sort of thing. So I'll show that working in there. I have tested it and it works in there. But I imagine there could be cases where this doesn't work. But I don't know. Ultrasonic kind of shouldn't care too much. I think we're just getting that reflection right off of the surface, regardless of what the surface is composed of. DJ Devon 3 says, would you have to worry about mold growing on the end of the sonic sensor eventually? This is a great question. I don't know. It is a valid question. I think it's not going to be a sealed environment. I'll show you when I bring the machine in what that looks like. It's going to, there's air. It's not an enclosed space. There's a lid that covers it, but it's not airtight. So hopefully it doesn't get moldy, but good question. Todd Bot says I should get a big straw and suck the water out to demo the sensor. I think no, but I think I will do something sort of like that with the reservoir, which has a valve at the bottom. I may be able to trigger that little valve to pour into a second container next week. So thanks, Todd. Paul says, as someone who's very, very colorblind, thank you for that. Sure thing. Holding electronics over water, what could go wrong? Just waiting for it. Yeah, like bloop. And so, by the way, thank you. That raises a good point, which is in this case, I want to move most of it safely away, and I may put it in a little waterproof container with a little wiring gland coming out of it. And this right here is the only piece that would need to be right at the source. The rest of this could kind of be anywhere. We can run pretty long wires from this. This is running over a, is this UART? I don't think it is UART actually. But essentially 2 data wires, a 3-volt and a ground are what run to this. So I can run those without too much trouble to the machine. It doesn't take up much space where it's going to be mounted inside the lid, probably with some magnets. I may do a little bit of maybe just a little 3D printed enclosure for this bit, so we'll see. Other questions? Install a few UV LEDs next to it. That's a good idea. Yeah, we could kind of cook the mold away. I like that. Second container for automated refill sounds neat. Yeah, okay, so these are great points. I did, with my old machine, this is a brand new machine. I've had it for just a little over a year. It's an expensive machine. I actually don't want to modify it right now. I don't want to go in there and hack the thing and try to replace its brain or anything like that. So I'm trying to stay contained within the confines, the volume of the machine itself. So I won't be adding a second pump, but I think this will be enough. I think just knowing when I'm getting into that yellow zone, I'll just refill it and it won't get caught. The problem is, the machine, I have a automated on and off. So I have it, actually I don't have automated off. I turn it off with Siri. Now she's going to talk to me. I turn it off with my Apple robot lady, and then it's on a home assist or whatever, whatever the Apple Home thing is, to turn on a high wattage remote outlet. So that sends it power. It kind of always stays in the on position. And then it needs about 15 to 20 minutes to kind of get the water boiler and the steam boiler up to temperature and pressure. So where was I going with that? Something someone said made me think of it. HomeKit? Is it HomeKit? It's one of those, yeah. It's a Kava switch, I think. And yeah, so it actually happened to me this morning. No kidding. It was just low enough last night. I didn't check it. This morning before I wake up, it turns on. It draws water into, it kind of wants to fill the boilers at that point for water and steam. It didn't have enough. Its little magnet sensor tripped it, and so it just goes into a stasis mode there, which means when I did come downstairs and go to my machine, it wasn't ready. I had to add water and then wait 15, 20 minutes before I had my cappuccino. So no more. That's what I vow. So let's see. Any other questions? DJ Devon3 says, I think these sensors have a screen-like material on the end. Even with a toothbrush, cleaning them doesn't sound like it would ever work again, right? I've never had to clean one. Yeah, it's not a super fine mesh. It's kind of window screen, maybe a little smaller. I have no idea. Can you get rid of that? Because I think that's probably just to deal with particles and fingers and things flying into it on, like, you know, robots that are rolling around. Maybe I'm guessing it doesn't need that. Might need recalibration. Who knows? All right. So that's where we're at with that. That's what's going to happen. And let me show you the code that's running on this, just so you can see what my sort of demo version of this looks like. Come back over to this view of the world. I like this. David S. says maybe you could use a digital VU meter as a visual display for the water level. That would be cool. Yeah, do a nice circular display with a water level VU graphic. Be lovely. I like it. Or maybe a real meter. I think I still got some around here somewhere. Get one of these. Just a big, how full is the water kind of thing. Put a new graphic on that. Or a vintage one. That'd be cool. All right, I'm going to unplug this trellis board here, and let's go back to that view. I just need to plug this in. I happen to just grab a Feather M4 because it's what I had handy, which is a great board, but it does mean I need a micro USB. So you can see there, I'm just moving my keyboard towards it. Boop, 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 boop. And let's open up the REPL on this. So this is reporting back in centimeters. So at, I think, sub 2, we go to white. So there you can see it's very stable. It's the occasional weird glitch there. I'm not sure what from. Let me get this a little closer. So there, any instabilities we were seeing before was just me moving it. But there it is. It's locked in. Nothing's moving. It says 1.6 centimeters. And then as I get further away here, you can see we're in blue. At 10, we go to green. I think at 20, we go to yellow. And you can see there, since I'm blinking, we're sort of slowing down the amount of reporting they're doing, which is fine. And then beyond 21, we get into red blinky mode. Let's open up that code right there that's on the board so you can see what's running. Comment from the chat, Andy Calloway says there's, C. Grover said perhaps self-cleans due to ultrasonic vibrations. Andy Calloway says, not so silly, DSLRs have a system. Yeah, I've had some cameras that have the ability to clean the sensor just by ultrasonic shaking or pinging it with ultrasonic from a speaker. I'm actually not sure how those work, but they vibrate particles off of your sensor, which is pretty cool. DGDevon3 suggests probably just dip in some vinegar or bleach and then air dry. Yeah, if the reservoir gets moldy, you have bigger issues, and this is, I think, part of why this is not a closed system. It does not get mold. I've cleaned it out. I clean it out periodically, dry it out, but it's not grown mold and algae, which is nice because I don't want that in my coffee. So this is the HCSR04 library for this sensor. The sensor is actually the RCWL1601, but it uses that standard. I think this one only uses that. We also have the US100, which can be both UART and non-UART trigger and echo pins. Those are the words I was looking for earlier. So use a trigger pin and an echo pin. So sends out and receives, sends out and receives. So set up that as sonar equals Adafruit HCSR04 with the two trigger pins I'm using, D5 and D9. I have that NeoPixel on there for an indicator. I set some preset color definitions. And then we create a variable called distance and ask for sonar.distance. And then we print that out. That's what we're seeing down below. And then this is my color conditions here. If we're less than 2 centimeters, we go to white. 2 or greater but less than 10, blue. 10 or greater or less than 18, green. 18 or greater, less than 20, blinking yellow. And then I'm just doing a little pixel fill with a sleep. And then anything greater than this is going to be the red blinking, which has just got a higher rate to it. And that is it. That's the code I have just for now. What I'm going to do is start getting into some low power mode and Adafruit I/O, sending out the info. So those will be my next goals there. All right, and I think that does it for a little intro to the project. Thanks for the interest. I know coffee is interesting to most people, so let me know if you have other thoughts about that, suggestions. And then last thing we can do is I wanted to do a little gear report thing, which is I got a new printer last year, new 3D printer last year. I had been running an Ultimaker 2 Plus. It was a 2, and then I upgraded it to 2 Plus, and I got that back in like the year 2015 or something. And I've been running that same machine until this past year. I finally went and upgraded to a Bamboo Labs printer, the X1 Carbon, which is incredibly great, blowing my mind how many leaps and bounds of 3D printing innovations I have ignored for about a decade. So if you want technology to blow your mind, just avoid it for like a decade, and then when you step back in, it's incredible. All of the ultrasonic bed leveling and flow assessment with cameras and all that stuff is great. One of the things that I'm most impressed with, however, is this spool thingy, the AMS they call it. I got a fresh one right here that I haven't installed yet. I'm going to do multiple of these. This is not easy to get out of the box, first of all. Oh, don't break on me. I'm sure most of you have seen these things. I'm sure many of you have them, but again, I had kind of ignored a lot of this multi-material printing stuff. It was, when I last looked into it many years ago, it was generally the realm of multiple extruders and nozzles and hot ends on a printer. They have now figured out in more recent years how to load multiple spools into a mechanism like this, which can then manage sending just one of the 4 filaments out this tube and into the printer. It's able to do little exchanging of the filament mid-print. You can do multicolor prints. You can also do a really great feature, which is simply a backup. If you run out of one spool, it'll start printing on the next one. So you can do none of these on your printer. You can do one of them. You can do up to 4 of them through a little hub that helps with some of the filament control. So that is my sort of gear report thing, which is, and I don't have any examples in here to show, but I have been really thrilled with being able to do either multicolors or different materials. You can also do support materials if you want to. So if you have a material type and a different plastic that you want to use as your support, or even a meltable, awayable kind of material, all those things are possible. I'm sure there are lots of people who make these, and I'm not trying to be a brand ambassador or supporter. I'm not paid to say this. I've just been very impressed with this. I also am well aware that as soon as you start talking about 3D printers, you're opening up holy wars and religious wars about who stole what from whom, who's open sourced and closed source or whatever. I don't really care to weigh in on that stuff. I'm just trying to use it as a functional tool, and this one has worked great for me. So I'm absolutely thrilled to be using this. One other feature that it has that I like is with the material from Bamboo. They've got RFID tags on the spools, the little cardboard inner spool. You can fill these refills into the plastic spools we're used to. And there are 4, I assume, readers, RFID readers or NFC tag readers inside of here, so it knows the material that you've put in without going through and setting them, which again, super convenient, amazing. I feel amazingly lazy to get to do stuff like this, but one thing I loved about the Ultimaker over the years was that it was, once I dialed it in, it printed well. I didn't have to futz with it. I didn't really want the hobby of 3D printing to be the hobby of keeping the 3D printer going, but instead just to make stuff that I wanted. This has helped a lot with just making stuff I wanted. Changing filaments was a sort of slow and annoying thing previously. Hitting a button, waiting for things to heat up, waiting for it to unwind, getting this printer spun around, slapping on the new thing, loading it up in there. So I tended to avoid changing filaments out. This has absolutely negated that. I right now have one of these connected, but I'm going to get multiple of them connected so that I can just pick from an array of filaments going into the printer. So I had some plans of setting up the printer in here, but I decided the better climate control is inside in my studio. There's some pretty good filtration. I got what do you call it? It's not just the carbon filter, but also a HEPA, so it's like a combined filter from the printer. It's fairly well sealed up, and I'm not printing exotic materials, so I don't have a hood around the whole thing, but it still seems like it's quieter and smells a lot less than the open frame Ultimaker 2 Plus that I had. That is going to be going to a library. There's someone who runs a 3D printing program that I know at a local library, and I'm going to be giving them the Ultimaker that I had. So it's off to a good home. I don't have the space to keep multiple printers, but this I love. So there's my my gear report there. Let's see, does that stir up anything? DJ Devon 3, I've heard some AMS systems waste so much filament that has to be wiped off, end up going through spools slightly faster. If that's the only downside, then it's a win-win. Yeah, there's like a little pigtail about that big that it wipes off at the beginning, and then I think a smaller amount when it does material changes. Yeah, look it up online if anyone's done any cool slow-mo videos of it. There's like a little Teflon roller that the nozzle like wings against that's kind of springy, and that's how it flicks that off, which is kind of fun. Johnny Bergdahl, the Ultimaker was rock solid. It really absolutely was. I mean, heck yeah. One machine, not much maintenance other than minor preventative, and I ran it for a decade. The Yanisku 7, interesting the Bamboo doesn't have a screen on it. It does. The printer itself has a touch screen. The one I have does, at least. I don't know if they all do. Tyeth, you can set the material purging color bleed avoidance to go into the model as infill. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so there's that's like that little purge tower it builds in multi-material builds, right? Yeah, I feel like I'm catching up to the modern world with 3D printing, so it's fun. I'll probably be doing more stuff. Todd, yeah, you can run up to 4 AMX boxes on the Bamboo. There's a thing, mine was back ordered, but I think it arrived today. They call it the hub. So it's up to 4 spools into 4 feeds of that thing, and then that reduces them down to just the one that's going to the machine. So you can have 16 colors on tap, or you could have 16 rolls of the same material if you're just doing some insanely huge print and you never ever want to run out. Let's see, Johnny Bergdahl says, I switched my Ultimaker 2 Plus this year as well, switched to a Prusa XL. Instead has 5 heads on it. Whoa, amazing. Liz says, the Bamboo is life-changing. I should just open up the Discord, you can see it here. Great. John Hodge, have the weight outside the tank wipe down the float when cleaning the reservoir, maybe a load cell measurement of the weight of the machine as a mold-free alternative. Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I helped set up a kegerator one time, and it used a scale. So you were just setting a keg of carbonated fermented beverage onto a scale, so the load cell could weigh the whole thing. So you could just set it when you got it, and then it would subtract from that. I think that was the KegBot project. It was an open source project. Am I caught up? Andy Calloway says, I'm bamboozled by all this 3D printer technology. It's bamboozling. Yanisku, oh, there's a moisture-proof filament storage from Creality. 4 different AMS on one printer, holy cow, can print a rainbow. Yeah, I noticed that they're now, I hadn't looked at these, but there are some PLAs that gradate every meter or half a meter or something between 2 colors. So if you did a vase, you'd get equal bands of color gradient changes, which is kind of neat. You can do water-soluble BVOH supports with an AMS or MMU, and that can come in pretty handy sometimes. Very cool. Johnny Bergdahl, no kidding. Yeah, I've actually put all of the Ultimaker stuff together to give away. I have about a little more than a dozen nice new rolls of 3mm filament. So that's going to the library too. So I could not keep any of my filament. Oh well. Sad. All right. I guess that's enough. This is not the 3D Hangouts. This is the wrong show. I shouldn't be talking so much about 3D printing. Let's finish that up. So I will, again, remind you, if you want to go buy some stuff, I noticed earlier in the chat, someone mentioned, might have been DJ Devon 3, that we do have a computer screw repair kit in the store. It was John Nodge. Thank you, John. Can I pop that open right there? Does this have those kind of screws in it? What do we have in this? I don't have one of these. What's in this? Oh, this is a good set of screws, though. Interesting. Yeah, I should check that out. Okay, some of these look similarly flat, low profile. Wow, all kinds of good screws in there. Neat. And little gaskets. I love little O-rings. Little red washers. Hey, cool kit. All right, so hey, if you want to go get one of those, we have 12 in stock. I call one of them. And you can get it for 10% off today with this coupon code Mineralize. So go get some distilled water and mineralize it for your coffee. That is going to do it. Thanks everyone for stopping by today, and thanks for asking. A couple of people asked. I am not too far from the fires, but it also helps to have a couple of highways in the way. So far we are not, we're ready to evacuate. We are not evacuating my area. And again, thoughts go out to everyone who's been affected by the fires here in LA. that is it for me. I believe there will be a deep dive tomorrow with Foamy Guy, possibly with Scott. I'm not sure what their schedules are looking like yet, but if someone knows, let me know in the chat. Otherwise, you can check the blog and the Discord tomorrow to find out, usually around 2 o'clock, I believe. And yeah, Scott, in theory, says Tyeth. So come by tomorrow for that. And I will see you next week for Adafruit Industries. I'm John Park. This has been John Park's Workshop. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.